Hello, I'm Sophia Caceres, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the year 1963. The first event is Martin Luther's I Have a Dream speech on August 28th. The speech was delivered to a crowd of over 250,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial, and it was so impactful that the civil rights movement began to revolve around this speech, believing all men are created equal. This immediately became one of the most famous moments of the civil rights movement and an iconic moment in American history. King was a symbol of the long history of racial injustice in America, and he encouraged the audience to hold their country accountable to its founding principles. This subtly but clearly dropped the message to bring racism to an end. Entertainment during 1963 was board games. Two very popular games released were Mousetrap and Clue. Both don't have an exact date of release, but both were definitely extremely popular during 1963. The first game, Mousetrap, created by a company named Ideal, was one of the first mass-produced 3D board games and involved players cooperating to build a Rube Goldberg-style contraption to catch a mouse, and was ideally made for 2 to 4 players. Next, Clue. Before the year 1963, the game Clue was around. However, it wasn't as popular till the year 1963. This is because it was released once again in 63 and the game got an update. This update is often referred to as the 1963 edition or the Nostalgia edition. The board game changed colors, themes, and characters' clothing, and lastly, the box packaging. This game is a classic mystery game. It involves players trying to deduce who committed a murder, with what weapon, and in which room. These two games were very popular not only in the 60s generation, but so on, up until it got the technology to produce the games online, with companies like Nintendo and even the iPhone App Store. One of the most popular movies during the 1963 was Cleopatra, released on June 12th and directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz. This movie is said to be a spectacular love story. It depicts Cleopatra's manipulation, played by Elizabeth Taylor, and Julius Caesar, played by Rex Harrison, and Mark Antony, played by Richard Burton, and her ill-fated attempt to save the Egyptian Empire. This threesome is one of the most famous and gloriously powerful love triangles ever to be captured on film. The trailer for Cleopatra shows subtle clips of the love triangle and how it's formed. It also shows how both of the men in Cleopatra's life would risk their lives for her. The most famous scene in this movie is Cleopatra's entrance into Rome. The scene is renowned for its elaborate production design, stunning visuals, and impactful portrayal of Cleopatra's arrival. It contained a choreographed parade featuring a massive manpower sphinx float carrying Cleopatra. New York Times referred to Cleopatra as a surpassing entertainment, one of the great epic films of our day. The Battle of Apak was fought on January 2nd, 1963. It was a pivotal battle in the Vietnam War that involved the South Vietnamese Army and American advisors ARVN against a Vietnam Cong force in the Mekong Delta. The battle took place in the Apak village. The significance of this battle is that it revealed the ineffectiveness of the ARVN and the difficulties faced by the U.S. in training the ARVN to effectively combat the Vietnam Cong. The ARVN was the primary land-based military force of South Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and they were heavily reliant on U.S. funding and training throughout the war. The ARVN, with American advisors, planned a trap to destroy the Viet Cong force. They intended to attack from 3 directions, utilizing artillery, armor, and helicopter support. However, in the end, the Vietnam Cong won the Battle of Apak, despite being outnumbered and outgunned by the South Vietnamese Army, or the ARVN. The Vietnam Cong inflicted heavy casualties on the ARVN and U.S. advisors, while suffering relatively minor losses. This battle officially came to an end on the same day it started, January 2nd. During this year, Vogue was influential to the world. As soon as they would release one of their hot takes on society, the public would immediately jump on it, following trends and what the newspaper says. Vogue had declared, "Pre-space is over, man in space is here." Soon after they stated that, women began to dress with leg-fraying space-age looks. Vogue became one of the first magazines to print a color photo on its cover. In the 1960s, Diana Vreeland, an editor in the year 1963, redefined the look of female models, shapely figures to highlight thin, gender-neutral physiques. During her time as editor at Vogue, the magazines ushered a period where the magazine reflected her unique taste for novel, bizarre, and outrageous styles. Vogue also continued to showcase other fashion trends, such as the use of crepe dresses. And here is an example of the crepe dresses. And here are also some pictures of the magazines released in 1963. Lastly, the most popular songs in each genre of 1963, starting off with rock. My Boyfriend's Back is a classic performed by the Angels. He's So Fine by Ronnie Mack. Now pop. Hey Paula is an American love song recorded by the pop singing duo Paul and Paula, and Surfing USA by the Beach Boys. Lastly, for country, Busted, released by Johnny Cash, and The Other Woman by Betty Sue Perry. Similarly to lots of other things in the 60s, some of these songs are still popular today. I forgot to add this part earlier, so I'm adding it now. In November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was shot in Dallas, Texas, while riding in a motorcade with his wife Jacqueline Kennedy, Texas Governor John Connally, and his wife Nellie Connally. Jackie Kennedy climbed onto the back of the car after the shooting because she was trying to retrieve fragments of President Kennedy's head that were blown off by the bullet. The motorcade rushed to Parkland Hospital, where at 1 p.m. the president was pronounced dead. Due to his injuries and the wishes of his wife, John F. Kennedy's funeral remained closed casket. The gunshot wounds to his head left a gaping wound, and closed casket was seen as a way to protect the dignity of his body and minimize morbid focus. For many, President Kennedy was a symbol of hope and optimism. Since the assassination was a sudden and unexpected tragedy, it extremely impacted such a confident and prosperous nation. After the assassination, Lyndon B. Johnson came into office, and the nation's political landscape shifted. Kennedy's death gave the civil rights movement momentum. Okay. So most things are still relevant from the 60s and today. And thus the year 1963. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!